Previously on Birds of the Air Travel. So that was it. Our short day in Addis Ababa is over, and next time I check in, we'll be in Antananarivo, Madagascar. Good morning from Antananarivo, Madagascar. We arrived at about 4 o'clock this morning, got about 2 hours of sleep, and now we're getting ready for our day tour today. Luckily, it's going to be a short one, so we're going to be able to come back to the hotel and actually get some sleep and relax today. But until then, there are some really interesting things to see around the capital city of Madagascar before tomorrow, when we are going to take off and go to see some of Madagascar's famous nature and wildlife. After a quick breakfast, we stepped outside to find a parade right in front of our hotel. Our guide Ghislain picked us up, and we began the day with a few quick stops at significant buildings and scenic overlooks. Eventually, we arrived at a Protestant temple that was built to commemorate the first Christian martyr of Madagascar. Ghislain led us behind the church to another viewpoint that overlooked a sprawling view of the city, bordered by placid rice fields and distant mountains. When we arrived back at the tour bus, some locals offered us their homemade rum.
Cheers.
Oh boy, that's
There's the shake.
There was also a group of people reenacting the story of the Christian girl who was martyred on the orders of Queen Ranavalona I, who had forbidden the Malagasy people from practicing Christianity. Our next stop at the Queen's Palace seemed even more fitting after seeing the reenactment. We went inside to explore the grounds of the palace complex and visit the exhibit halls that now occupy the main palace. This palace was the seat of Malagasy royalty from the early 1600s until the collapse of the monarchy in the 1890s. Throughout its 200-plus years of use, the complex saw many changes and additions until 1897, when France seized control of Madagascar, ushering in a colonial period that lasted until Madagascar won its fight for independence in 1960. Ghislain said that a person had to be able to lift this rock in order to join the Royal Army. Turns out nobody in our group would have been able to join the Royal Army. Just as we were about to leave the palace, we had our first wildlife encounter of the trip when someone spotted a chameleon in the garden. We also found several red-legged golden orb weaver spiders nearby, and Ghislain gently took one off of her web and asked if any of us wanted to hold her. Orb weavers are really beautiful spiders, and although they can look intimidating because of their large size, they're harmless to humans. Take a close look at this spider's leg on the upper left side, and you'll see a much smaller spider. Orb weavers exhibit extreme sexual dimorphism. That tiny spider is a male of the same species as the large female in the middle of the web.
Katie, looking good.
Katie. Whoa. Katie, over here now.
It's like the red carpet.
Can I take him? Yeah.
Oh my God! He has no choice.
Kale, you want to do it?
Do it, Kale, do it.
Oh, it's so creepy.
Smile.
Once everyone who wanted a turn holding the spider got one, Ghislain returned her to her web, and we left the palace in search of a local treat called koba.
Banana leaf on the outside, we have palm flour, sugar.
The koba had a sweet, nutty flavor, and I liked it a lot. Next, we took a lunch break before riding out through some rice fields to visit a souvenir market along the bank of the Akopa River. The stalls of this market seemed to go on forever, and I definitely got a little carried away with shopping here. It was a really fun atmosphere here, which made it too easy to get into the game of negotiating. Before I knew it, I had a bag full of souvenirs to give to my family back home. When we were done shopping, we hopped onto a little boat that ferries people across the river, and we took a ride to the other side and back. This was basically pointless, but it was fun anyway. Back at the hotel, we spent the evening unwinding with a swim in the pool. Then I grabbed a light dinner before turning in to get some sleep.
Alright, this morning we are just packing and getting ready to leave because we are flying out of Antananarivo today and we're going to Morondava to visit the Kirindy forest and the Avenue of the Baobabs. This is probably one of the stops in Madagascar that everybody is the most excited for, but the flight is in the afternoon, so this morning we are going to head out to the market in Tana before we leave. If everything goes to schedule today, we should get a short stop in the Avenue of the Baobabs before we drive a long ways down a forest road to get to our next hotel.
I decided not to bring any of my cameras into this market, and it was fun for me to get to have an experience without worrying about filming at all. Lucky for me, Jared did take some footage and allowed me to share it here. I'll link his YouTube channel in the description box and also include a link to his travel agency, Percussive Tours. We've been friends since high school and have traveled with them countless times at this point, and it's always a fantastic time, so definitely check them out.
Got a cola nut that I bought at the market. Oh gosh. Are very crunchy. Okay. Really good.
I don't believe you.
That's not very good.
The highlight of this market visit for me was getting an attempt at carrying this basket on my head.
You want to try it, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, you got pictures of it.
He's got it.
That afternoon, Ghislain dropped us off at the airport for our short flight to Morondava. Domestic flights in Madagascar are not known for being overly reliable, but we only had about a 40-minute delay before boarding, and we landed in Morondava about an hour after we took off. There were 4 drivers with 4x4s waiting for us at the airport. We would need these vehicles to make it to our next hotel. There was a cyclone a few days before our arrival, and we'd heard that the roads were still pretty wet out beyond the city. It took about a half hour to get to the Avenue of the Baobabs from Morondava, and as we got further from the city, we began to spot baobab trees off in the distance. We also got a preview of the road conditions as the baobabs became a more frequent sight. Eventually, our driver parked and told us we'd arrived.
After a bit of a bumpy ride, we finally made it to the Avenue of the Baobabs, which is probably one of the most famous locations in Madagascar. While there are baobabs in other parts of Africa, this is a unique species. The zebu coming through. But this is really beautiful. We get to watch sunset here before heading out into the Kirindy forest, which should be a 2-hour drive through some pretty rough road.
We only had about 20 minutes to spend on this visit, so our drivers moved all of the vehicles to the far end of the avenue and waited for us to walk down the tree-lined roadway. Luckily, this wouldn't be our only visit to the avenue. We would have more time on our way back to Morondava the next day, so this was just a nice little introduction to the area and a chance to stretch our legs before embarking on our long drive. If I thought the road was flooded before, it was nothing compared to what we encountered on the way out to Kirindy. At times, our 4x4's headlights were completely submerged underwater, and there were other vehicles along the road that were seriously stuck. Yeah, this did not look good, but they did manage to get this car unstuck. But it was actually a pretty fun drive. Along the way, we saw a lot more baobab trees, including all 3 species that are native to the area, and of course there were also a lot of zebu. Zebu cattle are hugely significant in Madagascar. Every menu we encountered had zebu burgers or zebu steak on it, so they're a massive food source throughout the country, and most people we asked said that zebu is their favorite food. But beyond that, they're used for transportation and agricultural work, and even used as dowries in many communities. The zebus have a lot of cultural and financial value in Madagascar and are one of the best investments around. So when you see a big herd of zebu like this represents a lot of wealth. It was dark by the time we finally arrived at our lodge. We got settled in and ate dinner, and we were noticing a lot of interesting creatures around the grounds.
We finally got out to our resort in Kirindy. A really beautiful place. Can't wait to see it in the daylight, although right now there are some really neat critters out because of nighttime. So we've already run into a giant snail. Hopefully we find some more stuff. We just got back to our room and one of these giant snails has somehow gotten in here.
So we walked off into the night.
Going exploring.
At first, we were looking for bugs and lizards, but soon some of the lodge's staff members came out to help us look for mouse lemurs. These are gray mouse lemurs, a nocturnal lemur that's grouped among some of the smallest primates in the world. These little guys max out at a weight of around 67 grams. That's pretty small, but the Madame Bert's mouse lemur grows to only half that weight at around 30 grams. This makes the Madame Bert's the world's smallest primate. We also found our second chameleon of the trip, which was just one of many more to come over the next few days.
We just had a really unexpected and incredible experience. We were just walking around looking for critters, and one of the hotel staff came out and told us that we could see mouse lemurs and that she would get some people to try to help us. It turns out Caleb is amazing at spotting mouse lemurs. We saw maybe like 7 of them. They're so cute. They're so adorable and tiny. That's our first like major wildlife sighting of the trip, and I could not be more excited. It's time to get to bed because we got an early morning tomorrow to go out into the Kirindy forest to try to see more amazing wildlife and hopefully some different lemur species.
The next day, we woke up to a really lovely morning with fantastic weather, and it really felt like this was going to be an amazing day. Until...
well, this morning took a bit of a turn. We were going to breakfast, and Caleb spotted the swing set, and he and Anna got on it, and the swing set broke, and Caleb has a pretty nasty cut on his face. Of course, we are 3 hours away from the nearest city, down, extremely flooded, extremely difficult to navigate roads. I'm pretty freaked out to see my brother just bleeding all over the ground.
There were definitely some signs that this swing set was a bad idea, namely these mushrooms growing all over it. Anna actually captured the accident on video, and make sure to check out her YouTube channel. I'll link that in the description box. Let's slow that down.
Oh my god, are you okay? You're bleeding from your head. Oh my god. Ouch. Oh, you're bleeding all.
Vince and I were sitting back here in the restaurant when this happened, so we heard the crash and then ran out to find Caleb covered in blood. I blurred out the actual wounds in this photo, but here's Caleb's face after the hotel staff helped clean him up. The cut on the very top was the one that was concerning, and the other 2 were just scrapes.
I got a video of it. Oh god, Cal.
Never wore these clothes once.
Once the cut was cleaned up, the hotel staff and our driver did a really great job bandaging him up, and someone called ahead at the hospital in Morondava to make sure they'd have someone ready for him when we arrived later in the evening. This was honestly such a blur. I was in full-on big sister panic mode, and I'm so thankful for all the people from the hotel and from Siki Tours who were able to be rational and help take care of him in this moment. Oh, and his crown also fell off his front tooth with the impact, so he had to go the rest of the trip with just this little nub tooth.
He still wants to do all the stuff we have planned today, and then this evening we're gonna get him to a hospital to get some stitches.
So with Caleb's situation being as settled as it really could be for the moment, we took a short drive to the Kirindy Forest Reserve, where we immediately started seeing wildlife, even in the parking lot. We found 2 chameleons and a few skinks before our local guides led us into the forest. The Kirindy Forest is actually a private reserve and a highly threatened ecosystem. As you can probably tell from the videos around the Avenue of the Baobabs, much of the forest in the area has been cleared out to make room for planting crops. In fact, the baobabs themselves really only escape being cut down because their wood is spongy and pretty much useless as a building material, and their trunks hold so much water that when the surrounding forests were slashed and burned, the baobabs survived the fires. We actually saw a lot of baobabs while we were hiking, and this is the environment they would be found in if the forest around them had remained intact. There are only 2 seasons in Kirindy, dry and wet. You can probably already tell that our visit was during the wet season. So because the area was experiencing seasonal rains, the forest was green and overgrowing with plant life. Our goal that day was to find 2 different species of lemur, the Verreaux's siffica and the red-fronted brown lemur. But when our guide excitedly pointed up to a hollowed-out tree, the round, globe-like eyes of a 3rd species entirely looked down at us. This is a red-tailed sportive lemur, and they're nocturnal, so it was a real treat to get to see one, make that 2, in the daytime. This mother and baby looked like even they were surprised to be awake at this time. A little ways down the trail, our guide pointed out another sportive lemur, but he was tucked away and sleeping. I have to assume this is the other one's mate because these lemurs live and travel as mated pairs, and they're very rarely far from each other or very close to another pair. As we hiked deeper into the forest, we came across termite mounds, ant holes, and other interesting insects. We also saw a lot of unique plant life like ebony trees and vanilla orchids. Madagascar vanilla is widely considered the best vanilla in the world, and it's the nation's second largest export. Before long, we heard a signal call echoing through the forest. This meant that our spotter had located some lemurs and was signaling for our guide to meet up with him.
We are waiting to hopefully see a lemur right now. Sounds like we have both types of diurnal lemur in one location. We're going to try to catch up with them right now. The spotter just found them.
So we sped through the underbrush until we found a troop of red-fronted brown lemurs. These highly social lemurs live in groups of up to around 18 individuals and are known to huddle together for warmth during cold times and to bond through grooming. I noticed that these lemurs did not seem threatened by us at all, and if anything, they were rather curious, with some individuals daring to walk right up to members of our group, albeit somewhat cautiously. Since the lemurs were content to keep hanging out around us, we were the ones who eventually had to decide to leave in search of the next species, and we found a handful of Feroz sifakas a short distance away. These critically endangered lemurs are highly arboreal. They leap from tree to tree with ease, but if they ever find themselves on the ground, their only means of moving is by jumping. Because of this unique behavior, sifakas are often referred to as dancing lemurs. The sifakas' behavior was a lot different from the red-fronted lemurs. They were willing to hang around while we watched them, but showed no interest in climbing down from the trees to investigate us. Now that we'd spotted both the sifakas, the brown lemurs, and had the bonus sighting of the sportive lemurs, it was time to hike back to the parking lot and then return to our lodge for lunch. We had plenty of time to pack our bags, take a swim in the pool, and then enjoy a relaxing lunch before we had to check out and get on the long road back to Morandava. Our hike today in the Kirindy forest was better than we could have possibly imagined. We had a really great time. Now we're just loading up to head back through the Avenue of the Baobabs, back to Morandava to spend one more night here before we fly back to Tana tomorrow. And once we get back to Morandava, we are going to the hospital for Caleb to get stitches. Along the way, we stopped to see the lovers' baobabs. These two trees entwined together as they grew, creating an iconic shape. Back on the road, everything was going smoothly until... Yeah, we got super stuck. So we climbed out of the car and started collecting branches to stick under the wheels to hopefully get some traction, and eventually it worked.
Did we get out? There you go. Thanks. Yeah! Nice! Good with dirt.
Holy cow.
Well, he can just avoid this spot. Alright.
After that, there were no more incidents, and eventually we were back at the Avenue of the Baobabs for a second visit. There are only 8 species of baobab in the world. Madagascar is home to 7 of those 8 species, and 6 of those 7 are endemic only to Madagascar. The Morandava area is home to 3 different baobab species, but the iconic ones lining the avenue are primarily Grenadier's baobabs. It's amazing what a difference a day can make. The light quality was completely different from the previous evening's visit, and there were far less other tourists this time, so our walk below the giant trees was much more peaceful. We weren't on as strict of a schedule this time either, so there was plenty of time to walk up and down the avenue admiring the trees and relax at a pondside cafe where we enjoyed the reflection of the baobabs rippling in the water as we sampled baobab fruit ice cream. We're trying baobab ice cream at Avenue of the Baobabs. Vince just said it's not very good.
I like it.
What? I'll have it.
Vincent looks very
I like
good.
it.
I'll have it.
It's okay.
I love it.
I'm a fan.
It's interesting. It's kind of tart. It's really refreshing.
As sunset grew closer, a few of us wandered over to a nearby village where people were selling baobab seeds and seedlings. Of course, we can't just bring home seeds when we travel, so we were unable to buy anything, but a bunch of kids from the village came out and started dancing when they saw us. This gave David an idea to start a game, and the next thing we knew, all of the kids joined in, and everyone was trying to jump as far as they could across these lines that David drew in the sand.
Yep.
At sunset, it was time to head out and get serious about getting Caleb to the hospital. We rode back into the city as the sky melted into pink and purple hues to our west. We arrived at the hospital after dark, and it didn't look very open, but the doors were unlocked, so we went inside and wandered through the halls until we found a doctor. He checked out Caleb's head, and at first he thought it just needed cleaning.
He doesn't even need stitches.
But when he started cleaning it, he realized how deep the cut was and decided to do some stitches.
Turns out he did need stitches.
A few minutes and $23 later, Caleb's cut was closed up, and we had some care instructions and a prescription for antibiotics. After a visit to the pharmacy, we were finally able to check into our beachfront hotel that overlooked the Mozambique Channel. We dropped off our bags, then met the rest of the group at a nearby restaurant for dinner.
To Caleb's health.
The food here was excellent. They even had a really good veggie burger, and we got to sample some local rums. We ended the evening with a walk along the beach before turning in for the night. In the morning, it was time to pack up and prepare for a long day of travel. We flew back to Tana, where Ghislaine picked us up from the airport, and then we embarked on a 4-hour bus journey through the mountains. The scenery along this route was really stunning. Everything was so green and vibrant. We got to make a couple of stops to buy bananas and eat lunch along the way, but mostly we were on a mission to get out to Andasibe as quickly as possible. By early evening, we were checking into our serene mountainside resort.
We just checked into our hotel, the Reptile du Mantadia, which is near Andasibe National Park, which is where we're going to spend the next couple of days. We pretty much had an entire day of travel to get here. This morning we flew from Morondava back to Tana. Ghislaine, our guide, picked us back up, and we drove about 4 hours out through the mountains. It was a really beautiful drive, but it was a really long drive. We're finally here. This hotel is really, really nice. So we're looking forward to enjoying our stay here, checking out the pool, checking out the grounds, and also exploring the national parks nearby and hopefully seeing a lot more wildlife. In just about an hour here, we're going to head out on a night hike, so hopefully we will be seeing some awesome nocturnal creatures tonight.
I spent an hour watching some distant lightning by the hotel's pool as the sun went down, and soon it was time to reconvene for our hike. When we arrived at Andasibe-Mantadia National Park, we were met by 2 guides named Bernadette and Pascal. They would be showing us around and helping us find wildlife for both of our planned hikes in the national park, and as we set off into the darkness, they proved themselves to be experts at spotting animals. Right away, they showed us our first mossy leaf-tailed gecko, which is an expert at camouflage. As we walked further, they pointed out frogs, lots of neat insects, and countless Goodman's mouse lemurs. These were even smaller than the gray mouse lemurs we'd seen in Kirindy, with a mature weight of about 45 to 48 grams. Bonnie had this moth land on her, and it stayed on her head net for the rest of the hike. The highlight of the night was seeing a dwarf lemur, another species of nocturnal lemur that's a lot bigger than the mouse lemurs. By the time our walk ended, I was more than ready for dinner and sleep back at the resort.
We're up bright and early again today because we're going to go for a hike in Andasibe National Park, which we're going to be looking for some of the diurnal lemur species who live here. And then later today, we're going to be heading to Vakona Reserve, which has a lot of native wildlife and a lot of lemurs that have been rescued and should be very friendly. So I really can't wait to get started today.
Pascal and Bernadette met us at the National Park entrance station and we began hiking into the rainforest.
Oh, wow.
Rainforests always have a wealth of interesting plants and insects to see, and this was no exception. We saw an endemic species of bamboo, which is the bamboo lemur's meal of choice, smelled some fragrant yellow ginger flowers, and then hiked uphill past several huge Vakona plants. All the while, we were listening for the distinctive haunting call of the indri-indri, which Pascal had demonstrated for us. Coincidentally, Pascal was doing his best indri-indri impression when their call began to echo through the trees around us.
Wait, please. Wait, please.
Once he located the lemurs, he came back and led us to them, and I have to admit, I found these to be the strangest looking lemurs we'd seen by far. The indri-indri is the largest extant lemur, and they have these fluffy ears that kind of make them look like teddy bears, but with hands and feet instead of paws. There actually used to be lemurs that were much larger than this, and I'm talking like similar in size to a male gorilla. Indris are actually a relative of these extinct giant lemurs, and as I watched them jumping through the trees, I tried to imagine a Harambe-sized indri-indri. Eventually we said goodbye to the indris so we could continue our search for some different species. Soon, Bernadette called Pascal to inform him that she'd found a troop of diademed sificas. Also known as golden sificas, this critically endangered species is similar in size to the indri-indri, making them one of the largest lemurs left in existence. They get their names, respectively, from the crown-like white ring of fur around their heads and from the golden fur on their arms and legs. Like the Varroa sifica, their only means of travel on the ground is by jumping, and they're much more comfortable up in the trees. This one in particular looked very comfortable. Young diadem sificas stay with their mothers for about 2 years, and this one was probably about a year old because the babies will cling to their mother's bellies for about a year before switching to her back. Having spotted 2 amazing lemur species, it was time to hike back down to the park entrance. Of course, we still kept our eyes peeled, looking out for more wildlife along the way, and as we passed back through the stand of bamboo, we got a surprise sighting of a gray bamboo lemur. This little lemur was equal parts adorable and difficult to photograph, because of all the bamboo stalks throwing off my camera's focus. So enjoy this blurry footage of a very cute lemur. When we left the bamboo lemur, our hike was basically over. We said goodbye to Bernadette and Pascal and then stopped for lunch at a restaurant overlooking a tranquil river that was full of fish. After lunch, we set off for our afternoon tour of the Vakona Reserve.
Yeah, thank goodness we did not take the bus across this.
This reserve is both a lodge and a wildlife refuge that houses lemurs that have been rescued from the illegal pet trade and Nile crocodiles. We visited Lemur Island first. The lemurs won't cross water, so they can live in safety on this island with human caretakers to feed them, while still getting to roam freely in a natural habitat. We had to take canoes to get out to the island, and once we were on shore, the brown lemurs were there waiting for us. If I thought the red-fronted brown lemurs were curious about us in the Kirindy forest, it was nothing compared to these brown lemurs that are used to being fed by humans. They followed us around wherever we went and weren't shy about trying to investigate our pockets and backpacks when we weren't paying attention, just in case we had some food on us. They also would occasionally leap across the trail. The babies were especially adorable and playful. In addition to the brown lemurs, we were able to see more diadem sificas, and this time we were at an excellent viewing location where we could see them jumping through the trees. Our guide tossed pieces of bananas over to encourage them to come down to the ground and display their jumping behavior. This was really cool, but I have to admit I kind of prefer the tree jumping. It was just really incredible to see them catapulting through the air with ease. Later, the guides were able to attract a couple of black and white ruffed lemurs who were also eager to accept some banana. These are really beautiful lemurs with striking coats. They're also found in the wild in Andasibe-Mantadia National Park, but they're more difficult to find than the 3 species we'd already seen that morning. In addition to the black and white ruffed lemurs, Vakona also houses red ruffed lemurs, and when we were returning to the viewing station by the river, we could hear one of them calling. Eventually we spotted it, and while it wasn't interested in coming much closer, I could tell that it was an absolutely gorgeous lemur. That thick red fur is just so pretty. The black and white ruffed lemurs and the brown lemurs hung around us until it was time for us to leave and head over to the Crocodile Reserve. As its name would suggest, there's lots of Nile crocodiles in this reserve. I'm kind of unclear on what Nile crocodiles are doing in Madagascar. I heard that they were on the island whenever it split off from the African continent, but I also heard that they swam over to Madagascar across the Mozambique Channel. Whichever story is true, Madagascar did once have its own species of crocodilian called the voye, which is now extinct, and the crocodiles that inhabit the island today are the same kind that you'd find on the African continent.
Quick, Katie, the bridge is gonna go.
No! There's a crocodile right there.
In addition to the crocodiles, this section of the reserve also had some reptile houses and an aviary with various species of duck and some guinea fowl. It was kind of a trip to see mallard ducks being kept as though there's something special, because I see these guys at the park near my house practically every day back home. They're a dime a dozen. Then again, someone from Madagascar would probably think the same thing if they visited the US and saw a chameleon in a zoo. The last stop of our tour was to see the area where baby crocodiles are kept. Then it was back to the hotel for a dip in the pool before dinner.
Pick a card, any card. All right, put it back.
Always the same card.
No, one's totally different.
Is this your card? No way! Yes, it was!
Incredible.
Yes! Magic!
It's a witch!
No, I
Roll
didn't
off
touch
the
the
cliff!
bottom. It's another beautiful morning here in Andasibe, but we are just packing up and getting ready to leave in about an hour. We're making the long drive back to Antananarivo. Luckily, we get to take a couple of stops along the way. We're going to check out the village of Andasibe first. Later this afternoon, we're going to a reptile reserve, which should be a fun last wildlife encounter here in Madagascar, because tomorrow afternoon we are flying out of Antananarivo.
It was a brilliantly sunny morning as we walked the streets of Andasibe. Tuk-tuks and motorcycles puttered along the brick road, and there were plenty of shops selling all sorts of goods, from fresh vegetables to cut meats to toys and household goods. We stopped into a liquor store where we were able to buy some bottles of vanilla rum and try a local cream soda. Richard and Caleb took the opportunity to help unload crates of drinks and carry them into the back stockroom. Then we walked over to Andasibe Station. There are no passenger trains that currently run to Andasibe Station, but freight trains still bring goods here.
Thank you.
The old station is currently in disuse, but it's a really lovely piece of architecture from the colonial period. Our bus driver met us outside the station, and we all hopped on board to begin our drive back to Tana. Along the way, we stopped to try tree tomatoes, or tamarillos. These didn't taste like tomatoes at all, they were really sweet and refreshing. We stopped again for a local lunch once we were near the Reptile Reserve.
Tilapia?
After lunch, we drove a short distance to the Peyrieras Reptile Reserve. This reserve was founded by a French entomologist named André Peyrieras, and it houses collections of reptiles and other fauna native to Madagascar. There's also a group of Kokorel sifakas that come to the reserve at feeding times, and our first mission when we arrived was to find the sifakas. This required a short but steep hike, and when we got to the top of this hill, the sifakas were hanging out in the trees waiting for bananas. Like many of the other species we'd encountered, Kokorel sifakas are critically endangered due to habitat loss and hunting. This ended up being my favorite sifaka species of the trip. I thought the red fur on their arms and legs was really pretty, and they were so gentle when they took little pieces of banana from our hands. It was hard to believe that this would be the last lemur encounter of our trip. Madagascar is home to over 100 species of lemurs, so while it felt like we saw a lot of them during our short time here, we really only scratched the surface. After spending some time with the sifakas, we hiked back downhill to visit a few of the reserve's reptile houses, starting with the chameleon house. There are also around 100 species of chameleon in Madagascar, and we were able to see a wider variety of them in the reserve than we had seen out in the wild. Their colors were absolutely fabulous. I really couldn't believe how vibrant some of them were.
Wow, look, it's changing colors.
Our guides from the reserve split us into two groups to watch a chameleon feeding. I was with the group that went over to this panther chameleon, and when it caught wind that there was going to be food, it really just tried to end this other chameleon's life subscription right then and there. One of the guides had to intervene before the situation got too dire, and I guess this dude got what it wanted because after that it was time for food. The guide held up a bug on a stick and the chameleon shot its tongue out to grab it. Chameleon tongues are wild. They're about twice as long as the chameleon's body and move incredibly fast. They also have a sticky substance on their tongues that helps them capture the insects. After this chameleon captured a few bugs, I stayed to watch it chomping on the last one. I imagine some people are gonna think this is gross, but I think it's really cool. I can't help it, I just think animals are so awesome. Bonnie also captured some great footage of a couple of other chameleons eating at the other feeding station. We were quickly losing daylight, so we eventually had to move on to some of the other enclosures. Next up was frogs, and this tomato frog was definitely my favorite. There were also various kinds of snakes, mossy leaf-tailed geckos, a beautiful moth, and some much smaller chameleon species. Our tour of the reserve ended with a tenrec, which is a type of hedgehog-like mammal that's endemic to Madagascar. On our way back to Tana, we stopped just before sunset to see a spectacular view of the mountainous landscape. This would be our last point of interest in Madagascar.
This is it. We're packing up and getting ready to leave Madagascar. Now, our vacation is only about halfway over. We still have 3 more countries that we're going to visit. I will say I do wish we had more time here. Madagascar is a huge country and there's so many things worth seeing here, and we really only scratched the surface on this trip. So I will be adding Madagascar to the list of places that I really want to return to in the future. Now, speaking of countries that I want to return to in the future, in a couple of days we will be returning to a country that I've been wanting to go back to ever since we went in 2018, which is South Africa. It's one of my favorite countries I've ever traveled to, and I'm very excited to get over there and see an area of the country that I have not seen before. Before that, we'll be stopping in Mozambique for a day and taking a walking tour in Maputo, and we'll have a day in Eswatini. So even though I'm sad to be leaving Madagascar, I am excited for what's coming up next. So make sure to stay tuned to the channel because there will be a new video coming up covering some of Southern Africa. Before we leave, we are going to take Caleb to a hospital to see if he can get his stitches removed.
Turned out he could not.
Did you get them taken out?
No.
Stitches out after 10 days.
10 days.
After the hospital, we went to the airport where we said goodbye to Ghislaine, who had been an excellent guide for our entire trip. I was already mentally planning another trip to Madagascar as we took off bound for Maputo. Our time in Madagascar had been incredible, and I especially loved all of the unique wildlife encounters we'd had along the way. There are so many species here that can't be found anywhere else on Earth, and it was so special to get to see some of them in their natural habitats.
Next time on Birds of the Air Travel.
Here we have some gas cars in Madagascar.
Wow. Stick my GoPro. Vince, look back. Just smile or
You're
something.
gonna throw something at me.
No, I don't have anything to throw at you. Nice.
Hell yeah, export. You're still
Nut City.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Now you really can't see us at all.
Katie, stand by this.
Why? What are you gonna do?
How does a snake feel to you?
Snaky.